Welcome to Unmasking the Man. Here we unmask a lot of things as it pertains to men. And of course, we've been having quite a roller coaster, so to speak. Gentlemen, it's been something else. I didn't see this coming. Yeah.
Quite a journey.
And just trying to even understand ourselves as men. So we're not just speaking to people, but really, I believe this experience has more or less been introspectively looking at ourselves and trying to even learn new things about ourselves as men.
True that.
Yeah, so today we are actually looking at something that is quite not so much spoken about, but it exists. And this is about gender-based violence as it pertains to men. I want to read some statistics here to inform our conversation. And this is in support of the fact that men too experience violence, gender-based violence. And it says here that men who experience gender-based violence varies widely, with 37% in Eastern Mediterranean, 37% again in Southeast Asia, 29% of men in America, but most interestingly in Africa, 44% in Sub-Saharan Africa, and 53% in Southern Africa.
Where we are supposed to be macho.
Yes.
And yet the highest.
Yeah. But you will hardly hear men coming out to actually say that we're going through these things.
Yeah.
So the
Whose
fact
statistics are those?
Oh, okay. By the way, where did I get these statistics? No, I'll definitely make reference. I just left out, I think, the source, but there is a source. Yeah. So, but these are interesting statistics, I believe. 45% of women and 44% of men suffer physical violence.
That's half, almost half.
Almost half. Yeah.
That's almost everybody.
So what do these statistics really speak to, given that we haven't had very many men come out to say that we are going through this kind of, violence?
I think the reason is the definition of violence from that is given by international bodies like United Nations may not be our understanding of violence, number one, because violence is not just physical.
Yeah.
There is also emotional violence. There is verbal violence. There is financial violence. You know, when somebody stifles finances, maybe you are running a joint account with your spouse and your spouse decides to, in order to punish you, moves money from the account to another account so you have no money, it is a form of violence. Now, when you widen the definition of intimate partner violence, then the net will most likely catch more people in the process. You may find that probably if one partner is abusing drugs, so they are not fully in control of themselves, maybe the other partner goes to report to the children's department. And so you have a significant salary of the person now going to facilitate taking care of the children and the spouse. That there's some degree of violence there because now the person is working, but he's not earning. Yeah, that's why I'm saying maybe these numbers go up because the definition is wider.
Right.
But now the question is the definition justified? I think so, it's justified that these various aspects of violence I don't know what my brother thinks. Is violence beyond just physical,
A breakdown in communication. When people get to a point where they cannot reason, and then the violence comes in, and all manner of violence, it's truly a breakdown in communication. For some people, it's a cold war. For others, as he says, it's a financial war. For others, it's the emotional, verbal abuse, and then there's violence that's physical violence. In as far as the statistics are concerned, I think we are probably witnessing more violence, either because we are now more aware, you know, because of social media and things like that. So some of these things are coming to the fore. Many of us who grew up cannot remember moments where the homes that had violence were few and far between, you know. Most of our parents, I'm not so sure how they dealt with their issues, but it seemed they mostly bottled it up within their own, you know, confines. Maybe they didn't speak to each other in the bedroom, who knows, but the physical violence was really an extreme art. Nowadays, it seems to be the norm. You know, it's you see it very often. The news outlets, for every 4 or 5 news items that we are giving on news nowadays, you'll have 1 or 2 that's talking about violence. I don't know if news has also been a source of a championing of the same, because, you know, sometimes what you hear commonly begets again that could be an idea that you could do. But we are living in a time where this discussion is definitely one that needs to be addressed, and especially because we are talking to men. We need to talk to men from 2 fronts. 1, when you are physically abused, and 2, when you are actually the abuser. You know.
But more often than not, when we've had, when you hear these initials, GBV, what comes to mind is, you know, abuse against women.
Yeah. And by the way, when it comes to abuse against men, we are still very much in a world that is so macho, as Pastor has said, that it's very difficult for men to say, you know, I can't just tell you guys my wife has beaten me up. You know, you do remember even for those of us who live in our country, there's a politician who famously went to the police station to do a statement against his wife. And he was ridiculed, even by other politicians. On the campaign trail, they would say, look at that guy. You know, how can you even deal with us when you cannot even deal with your wife at home?
And so if he was beaten again, he would not report again.
He would not.
Because now he has learned a lesson. And any other person who has learned from him will not do it.
Will not do it, yes.
Now, looking at other forms of violence, Brother Justus, when a man and woman disagree, and then one partner disappears with the children and denies access, and say you can't access the children, that's a form of violence, because there is mental stress that you cannot access your children. Because sometimes we may think that, no, I'm not a violent person, I'm a good person, but there are certain actions that you engage in, and it's very common sometimes that men are left without their children. They have just been growing up with their children, but they had a disagreement with the mother of the children, who is his wife. So the wife packs and goes with the children. Now, this man may pretend that all is well, but you cannot forget your children. You know that my children are somewhere. And the man has to beg to talk to his children. Hello, can I talk to the children? No, the children are bathing. Can I talk to the children? No, the children are still outside breathing. When they are ready, they will talk to you. So the man is taken through a whole week of trying to talk to the children. And the moment he gets to talk to the children, hi, are you guys okay? The phone is picked. That is enough for today. Call another time. What are you doing to that man? The man may not have been hit physically, but that person, even when he goes to the workplace, he's not okay. Yeah. So that's one form of violence that many men are suffering, and we don't know whether they know that it's violence. Now, a man may have had a child even outside marriage. He's living with his wife and children properly, so to speak. But probably the other lady who has a child with this man is demanding more money. So if you don't give more money, you don't talk to me and don't talk to the children. Send the money first. And the man is in straits, financial straits, and he can't access the child. And that is your child. You want to know how the child was. The last time you heard, the child was coughing seriously. Did the cough subside? You are left out. That is violence.
Pastor, you're making a point here that perhaps men could be going through a lot of other forms of violence that we might not even realize that it's violence in itself.
Another example, when a man is told constantly by his wife that you are useless, you're good for nothing. Maybe he's reminded that your game is low. And sometimes, of course, it's interesting to know if the game is low, what are your standards? I mean, why are you benchmarking? Are you suggesting something when you are saying that the man's game is low? Yeah.
What are you
Where are you referring to? Who is this?
In comparison to...
Who are you comparing me to? But you see, when a man is told in the bedroom, just two of them, man and wife, and the wife says, I think I'm fed up with you. Your performance is so poor. In fact, you don't exist. When that man walks out of the bedroom and meets the children, he looks okay, he's smiling, hug his children, go to work, he sits in a meeting with other men. But what is going on through his mind? This is a man under violence. This is emotional violence. Because, you see, if you were to solve that problem of poor performance, confrontation, abuse, and attack doesn't solve that problem. It is normally more of a couple sitting down, discussing and say, you tried yesterday for 3.5 seconds, but if we could put some effort, can we get to 4 seconds now from 3.5? You know, it's easier. Could we do this? That discussion would be more helpful in achieving the desired goals. I'm just imagining from that end. When a man is told, you can't pay this, you can't buy this, your children don't have shoes, your children don't have what, you are working is a waste and what have you. That man may walk out of the bedroom. The world will not know what happened in the bedroom, but that's a man under violence. Now, and this is what we call intimate partner violence, because there's something about an intimate partner being violent.
It's true. That berating is not good. And I would like to say, one of the things that we don't usually talk about is how much of that type of violence is in church.
Yeah.
You know, and because church, we are always fronting, people want to say, meet my beautiful, amazing wife,
The most beautiful woman.
If you go to a meeting of especially like pastors' wives, you'll be shocked to find that they're also going through the very same things that...
I'm here, brother.
They're going through the same things the rest of us are. I remember a pastor friend of ours when I was much younger, of my family, whose wife came home for refuge because her husband had beaten her, and he was a man of God, a minister. And she was at our place for about 4 days, while my parents were scrambling to see how they could bring the two together.
Could calm down the man of God.
Yeah, to calm down the man of God. What I have seen, and I'm not justifying violence from men by any form or sort, but what I have seen personally is that usually in marriages, women, I don't know where they got the memo from, but most of their go-to default setting when things are not working is one, the Cold War, the moodiness, the not talking.
Which is violence.
Which is violence.
A form of.
You're not talking to your husband for 4, 5, 6 days in a row. And when he asks, you say nothing.
What's wrong?
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. And when there's nothing, there's really something. And the other thing is, if you have a woman who is not quiet, then she's what Pastor described. She will berate you. She will tell you you are useless. You should have done this better. In a way, and usually it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's tone, It's even where you say it. Some of them are not afraid to say it even in front of the children, And for men, most men, when they are in a confused state, when they don't know how to run, many men do not know how to control those feelings inside, and so they bring them out to their hands. When a man is outgunned by a woman verbally, she's a papa, you just want to shut her up, and once you hit her, then the focus shifts
from what started it all
Yes.
to what you have just
to
done.
what you've just done. You cannot
Everything
get
is
back.
reduced to now that
What you have done, not where it came from.
Yeah.
No, where it came from no longer matters.
You're now a violent guy. You have been
Police case.
It's a police case, and nobody. In fact, sometimes I always wonder when I read some stories. I always want to find out, but what was the cause?
What was
Where
behind
did it
it?
start?
But you'll never hear that,
You know.
because now it's irrelevant.
No, you are violent.
Yeah.
You hit me.
Yeah, and you see, our words are so key because we can argue about two men are driving, for example. You and I are driving. Maybe we miss a turn. You laugh. You tell me, you missed a turn, Levi. You missed a turn. Go back, me. We go back. End of story. Man and the wife are driving. Man misses a turn. How can you do that? Did you not see? Are you? What is wrong with you?
Are you okay? How can you miss such a time?
Yeah.
Forgetting that this vehicle can actually turn back and go and actually make the correct turn. So there's also that. So when you find yourself in a position like that as a man, the first thing you must also constantly tell yourself is, I will not be physical. I will not be physical. You must drum it into your mind, because that physicalness brings other things, as we have just said. The important thing is to look at, if you ended up with a woman, and I think that's where we should go next, Pastor. If you ended up with a woman who berates you the way you have suggested, what do you do? How do you handle it if you are torn apart in the house? And every time you go home, you want to sit outside first for 5 minutes, just breathing in before you walk in.
But even before you get there, Levi, how do you even get there? Because we are talking about intimacy here. These are people who at one point, you couldn't imagine or
Told each
see
other sweet nothings.
yourself living even for a minute without the other besides you. So how does it degenerate that fast to a level where now, this is not that person you used to look at and, imagine all those good things?
You know what happens? The reason why intimate partner violence or gender-based violence is very serious. You see, your boss at work can tell you the same things your spouse told you, but they will not mean the same thing. You see, when you jump from where I'm sitting down, it's not significant. When you jump from this armrest down, it's a little significant. If you jump high, if you go higher, the higher you go, the harder the fall. Emotionally, we get committed to our partners and expectations go high. So when disappointment comes, it hits harder. I don't expect so much from my boss apart from work. So whenever I'm disappointed, I'm falling from a low place. But for a partner, you have gone too high. That's why the intimate partner violence, even verbal, even just denial of food. You come home, there's no food. It's not prepared.
Yeah.
Everyone has eaten. That hurts more than if you visited me. If we are staying together for some reason, and you came to the house where we are staying together, and I told you I ate all the food, it will not disappoint you the same way as somebody you had an intimate connection. Yeah. Sexual denial. If a man is denied sex by some nondescript character out there, it means nothing. But by someone you loved, paid dowry, walked down the aisle and what have you, and now it's running into weeks. I've met couples who are talking of it's running into months.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Some
it's
even
told
in separate rooms.
Yeah. So that some are in separate rooms. Some have introduced 2 beds in the same bedroom. It's no longer bedroom, it's bedroom, because now there are several beds. That kind of thing is violence that is extreme, because an intimate partner who you had high expectations has disappointed you. So the fall is harder. Now, what causes these is their expectations. And normally they say what hurts us all the time is expectations. If you have high expectations of me, then I'm most likely to disappoint you. And unfortunately, there is no way we can be close to each other intimately without expectation. Yeah.
I'll speak from that expectation, because I think too many times expectation of love is limited to the loving nature of it. This is what I mean. For example, you get into a relationship with someone, you're expected that you're not going to cheat. Yes, and they won't cheat either. It's easy, that's an easy expectation for both of you to know that we are in this boundary. You're expected that you're committed to them. Of course, you're expected that you will go home to them. There are those things, there are unwritten rules. Unfortunately, when it comes to issues to do with how to solve our issues, we kind of leave it to the wild. Even a boxing match has rules. There are certain places a boxer will not hit.
You can't hit below the belt.
Another boxer, But too many of us enter our relationship not putting any rules as to how we will disagree or agree to disagree.
Because we'll definitely disagree.
Oh, yes. What I would call fighting fair. If we have a problem, how do we fight fairly? So the rules, when they are out of the table, it means we can tell each other anything, which we shouldn't in a fight. And we should have boundaries for what we can say.
Okay.
For how far we can go with your partner. For what we can do. You know what? When you set them out with your spouse. For example, me and my spouse agreed no matter what happens in our war, whatever war we are having, we will pray together every night. At first, she didn't want to agree to it because, women, they don't want to touch you when you're even. But over time, she came and told me that was a really good thing. So we'll sit there and we'll ask God to help us solve a problem. And we will sleep. But we are not in a very good place. Another thing we also agreed on was sometimes we don't have to tackle it right now. If we find we are reaching a point where we are, both our guns are very high, let's talk about it tomorrow.
Give it time.
You sleep, let me sleep. Let's know. And that sleeping is still the same bed. Not that you have gone to the sitting room, or you are out there in the car or something like that. It still gives you, and I also told her I will not leave the house. I won't storm off for 3 days. You won't storm off for 3 days. I will still come home. And consciously still communicates, I'm still yours. I'm not liking what is happening here. I may not be of the same opinion, but the bond is still there.
But Levi, how did you get to that level?
We had to fight fast and get into very bad levels.
That's what I'm wondering.
To get there.
Did it just happen magically, or was?
No, I can speak about it, with that in mind. But unfortunately for us, we went down a very dark road before we got to the correct road. But now I can tell couples you don't have to do that. From the beginning, you must begin to set a point, because incidentally, what you're saying, that person that you love right now, that one you cannot live with, you will fight with that person.
Definitely.
Don't kid yourself about it. Pastor,
no, you're right. You're right. And what you are saying, I hope even the younger men who are considering marriage are listening, that it is good to know that there will be war. But it's also good to note that gender-based violence is as serious as how much a person is damaged. Because there are things somebody can bear. But when it gets to a point where it is affecting your performance of day-to-day duties, when it now starts affecting your health, maybe you are now starting to be careless, it means you are moving into depression probably, or now you are not performing at work, your work levels are coming down, then at that point, that is no longer something to ignore. It is important for all those who are listening to know that we don't have to be so concerned about everything. It's good if you can handle it, particularly after a long time of marriage, there are certain things you can handle. When you are newly married, you get shocked that somebody you love could say such a thing. But after you've been in marriage long enough, they say it, and I've disappointed my wife. She has made that statement because she's disappointed. I understand. I go to work and I continue with my work without worry. Then that means that is under manageable. But when it gets to a level where you are even driving, you discover all of a sudden you almost hit that thing, then you are at a bad place. Now, when you find yourself at a bad place, you need counseling, proper counseling, not just advice from some character. You need proper counseling to be assisted,
from a professional.
From a professional. And it is good sometimes to go to people who are neutral, because if you go to your relatives will side with you.
And even as we come to a close, Levi, there's this tendency, and Pastor has alluded to it, the fact that we want to, when I disagree with you, it's almost inviting for me to want to recruit other people in this particular war with you. I want to, and he talks about even talking to my perhaps other relatives. This is what my spouse is doing, but that doesn't really help much.
No, it doesn't help much. But a human being is wired for validation. Even you're driving on the street, someone cuts you off, and you're up with the person. You see what he did? You see what he did? We're always looking for affirmation from the person next to us, or confirmation that we are on the right path. We have done the wrong thing, but and the right thing. But I think when it comes to the spouses and families, what you can start with from the beginning is what we have said. First of all, set the rules of how you will engage when things go wrong. If you find that you're engaging not in a good manner, even after setting the rules, note the symptoms down and seek help early, as my good pastor here said. Too many of us men imagine that professional counseling, or counseling for that matter of any kind, is for cuckoo fellows out there.
Yeah.
It's good to be in touch with yourself. It's also good to get insight from another guy. Also sit down in these meetings. And then we have too many men who think that premarital counseling is nonsense.
A waste of time.
Which is not, if you find the right kind of premarital counseling, by the way, the one that's real and true, the people who will tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, then you're better off for it. Because too many of us don't want to read the fine print. It's the same way we buy a machine and we don't want to read what the machine will do. We want to fix it before we even read the instructions. Even marriage has got its rules. Even the way you deal with your spouse has got its ways. There are there's a general way women are also wired that all of us can share. There's also your woman and how she's wired as a person.
Yeah.
So you must learn the art of both, and you'll be able to escape these things. It'll be something that you can manage, because conflicts will be there.
Right.
But it's important that we know how to resolve them, and that's the key right there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Pastor, end the show for us.
Yeah, I would like to say that in case you are the one causing violence, I want you to know that you are damaging people for life. Violence is not just between husband and wife. It could be the children in your home, the orphans who are staying in your home, or people in your house. Remember, one day you will grow old, and in that hospital bed, you will need people to bring porridge and feed you because your hands are old, wrinkled, and feeble. Don't dare people now because you are strong and probably you have money. It's not good to be violent, because life will levelize at some point in future. Thank you so much.
See you again next time. Thank you so much.